But everything we're doing is super important. But yes, it is like this one's tough because it's hard to put this stuff to practice. As I mentioned before, I think the way that this stuff really becomes useful is if you're actually going through the exercises and then putting it to work on your own project. And that's the best way to do it. It's also very time consuming, and especially when we start getting into the code stuff. The code stuff is so, I won't say it's like over the top complicated, but most of the time, at least what I'm doing, a lot of times I'm just literally following the directions. I'm not really like understanding it as much. So for that reason, um, it's a bit cumbersome. So, and I understand that, and that's okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just like for right now. So I guess what I want to see happen is you at least know that you have this stuff at your disposal, so that when you get into a project with a client or with another group or something, that you at least know you're like, okay, I'm aware of the concepts, the overall concepts. I may not have the best hardcore knowledge on how to apply this in every single situation, but I can at least put this to work if when it's called upon, or when I could be like, oh yeah, I know that I can do callbacks, which is what we're working on today. You're like, I may not be the strongest at callbacks, but you understand what callbacks are, how they work, and then you can actually put them to work, when the situation arises. The coding stuff is complicated, and to be honest, there's some of the stuff coding stuff today. I feel like I understand the coding stuff kind of at a superficial, like I understand the concepts of it, but the actual code is a little bit more complicated. But um, that's something that I want to work on a little bit more. Maybe after this class, is just to spend some, not after this class today, but I'm saying like just getting better at scripting, because I think learning some C sharp would do you well to when you're working with this. But this is all the kind of stuff that if you are going to work in the game industry, this is all the stuff that you do need to know. So it is important. It's not just like it's not just for the sake of like doing stuff in this class. It's you actually want to try to put this stuff to work. So we're gonna finish up this week. So yeah, so the plan is we're gonna finish up 7 and 8 today. I don't even know. Does 9 even have a quiz that goes with it? I can't remember. I'm gonna look real quick. If it does, because the last chapter or whatever it is, it's basically making your own version of it. Something's wrong with Audio Kinetic today. I can't get on right now. That's okay. Um, but we're just doing 7 and 8. 9, I don't know if we really need to do that one. So then what we're going to jump into next week is Fmod. And Fmod is the counterpart to Wise. And it's pretty neat. Like if you don't love Wise, you may really like Fmod. Fmod is pretty neat. The learning tools are much more less and less a lot more cryptic. But the cool thing is, if you understand the Wise concepts, the concepts translate over to Fmod. It's just implemented in a different way. It looks a lot more like a DAW than say Wise does. So it may suit your workflow a little bit better or worse or whatever you want. And then we're gonna dive right into Unreal right after that. So we're only gonna spend like a week and a half or so, maybe a couple weeks on Fmod, just so we can get a feel for how it works and how you implement it. And then we're going to dive straight into Unreal, and we're going to spend some time doing Unreal. So we're going to go through kind of like what we did with Unity. Unreal, I think the tools for learning Unreal, I don't know. I love Unreal. I think it's badass. So we're going to spend some time with Unreal, and then we're going to look back at going into integrating both Wise and Fmod into Unreal, and then we'll have a couple weeks to work on final project stuff. So for final projects, we'll just be making a little game that demonstrates all the stuff that you can do with all of these concepts we've been learning. So anyway, that's kind of the grand picture here. And the reason I just wanted to spend some time on that, just because I know that this gets a little bit of a, yeah, like I said, this is becoming a little bit of a grind. I know that this one in particular, I'd not done this one before, and it's definitely got a bit of a grind to it. So anyway, that's kind of the plan. What we're going to do today is we're going to be doing the lesson 7 stuff, which is callbacks. So callbacks in Wise are well, I guess up to this point, what we've been doing is we've been having Unity and Unity and Wise talk to each other. But at this point, what we do is we have Unity talk to Wise. But and like we say, play footsteps sound, play I don't know, a gun sound, switch the reverb on when you go into this, like this AUG send when I go into this region, do all these different things. But basically up to this point, it's been a one-way communication from Unity to Wise. What callbacks are is the other direction, where we actually go from Wise back to Unity. So we can have our system be a two-way communication, and it's a little bit more complicated, but it does work. And so the reason for it, at least the way that they describe it, is that if we want things to say respond to music, say you want the the trees to sway to the beat or something like that. When you want something that's synced, and music is probably going to be the one where it's going to be most of the case, because generally speaking, the visuals are going to drive the audio, which is the Unity to Wise kind of communication. The opposite is when you go from Wise to Unity is going to be more along the lines of the music type stuff. And we're actually doing so. We're going to talk a little bit about the music stuff today, and also next class. We have not done the Wise 201, which is the music stuff. So this is, you're basically just gonna have to kind of grind it out and just follow the instructions and not have to worry too much about like exploring the music system in Wise. That's the music stuff is what we're going to do next semester in Game Audio 2, where we actually do a lot more interactive music type stuff. So that's what we're going to be working on, yeah, then. So for right now, we're just going to have to kind of gloss over some of the specifics of how the Wise music system works. So, but you can get through this one good enough in such a way. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to have it talk from Unity to Wise and then Wise back to Unity. And so there's two different ways we can do this. We can do it one with just components, which is what we've been doing up to, like, that's the kind of the drag and drop method that we've been doing so far, and that works just fine. But we also want to look at how to do this from code. And the reason you want to be able to do it from code is because as your systems get more and more complex and more custom, it gets a little unwieldy to do it with components, just straight with regular off-the-shelf generic components. So that's what we're going to work on. So we're going to show that both ways here. And the component way, no problem. That's something that we could probably just kind of figure out, not intuitively, but we can understand that one pretty well. But it's when we get to the code one, it makes sense from a conceptual level, but the code itself is a little funky. So we're just going to have to kind of just follow the instructions on that one right there. So without further ado, let's get into it. I am going to go to full screen. Oh yeah, Jacob, did you look at it? Yeah, sorry, I didn't see I didn't have the chat open right there about the Fmod stuff. That's cool that you looked at it. Let's see, share computer sound. Cool. I was trying to get Audio Kinetic to work today, but yeah, it's back. Okay, I just want to see if they actually make us do. Oh, yes, you do have to do a quiz for wait, no. Which one is this? Oh, yeah, I guess you do have to make there's a quiz for lesson 9, making your own Unity project. I've gotten through all of I have these two left to do right now. That's not me. I'm not signed in right now. Okay, cool. Let's pull up some Wise. Okay, sent in. It's my Unity projects. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll start here while this is before we get into Unity. Let's take a look at the system in here, because we haven't really looked at the music systems, how they work in Wise yet. So we've got our standard kind of Wise session here, but what we haven't looked at before is the interactive music hierarchy down here. Let's see, is that the right one? Yeah, that's the right one. I feel like something's wrong here. Oh, that was my project. I was like, what's going on here? My bad. Adventure game. This is what we want. All right. So when we look at our standard Wise session right here, we see our general actor mixer hierarchy, which is like all of our sounds, like our sound effects, and so on and so forth. But we haven't spent any time with it on this interactive music hierarchy. And what we've got here is, I don't even know what that one is. I haven't played with any of that stuff, but we have music. And in this music section here, we have music regions. So the way you can kind of think about how Wise sets up the music stuff, and I've only spent very limited time with this, so I'm just going to give you a general overview. Basically, you can kind of think about the music system like working in stems. where you're going to be drawing, like, depending on what region you are that triggers the music, it's going to be kind of like like let's see, what would be the best one to say, kind of like a switch, like a switch state. So if we, like, we've got the different regions right here, and depending on what region you're in, it's going to play that music, and it's all going to be tempo synced and key synced because that's the way they were composed. And so you want those all so that they can actually flow from one region to the other, and also be day and night kind of thing, and it'll all sound like they flow together, but that they will actually blend right together with one another. And inside of these, we'll have different regions, and so, like, we have our different, like, basic percussion. We have different layers. So what you can do is you can have it either do randomization, or you can have it blend in. So as I come in, it'll add some more stuff on top, add more stems, add more complexity, and remove complexity. But the cool thing is that everything, when you do all this stuff, it stays to the tempo, it stays to the clock, so that everything will stay in sync. So that when you're going from, like, say, one region to the other, it won't, like, just start up music that off of a different beat. So it'll always, like, at least do the transitions on the one of a bar, or even if you wanted to, you could even go at the ends of a phrase, like a musical phrase. You can have it transition in, so it feels like it's the trick is to make it so that they don't notice the musical transitions. Because if you notice the musical transitions, that means you're not doing a good job. So, but we've got these, like, and so if we can just let's listen to the basics here. Oops, this is emit layers. Kind of might recognize that from playing this thing. Okay. Okay. So that will just kind of loop itself over and over and over. Let's see. So these are the things that we want to have, that we're going to work with. So what we want, the kind of the goal here is, we're going to want something to respond to that. And to make it simple, like, we're going to use the trees. We're going to make the trees essentially, well, one of the trees at least, dance to the music. So we're going to have it shrink down and come back up on the one. So it's not like, it's really like, it's not analyzing the music per se or anything like that, although that would be pretty complicated, but you could do something like that. What it's doing, all we want it to do is say on the count of one, is that basically just connect so that the communication is going from Wise back up to Unity. So to do that, what we're going to start with is our scene right here. So let's go to certifications 301 7 callbacks using components. Today's actually going to be a pretty short one. So even if we do wrap up this section, what I would recommend is that you'd hop off and go actually just do this section really quick. Actually, real quick, how are we doing? Are we caught up? Did you guys, like, I just a side note here, like, I haven't looked at the submissions. I saw stuff coming in from some people, but how are we doing on at least the 1 through 4 stuff? Are you guys getting through all that? Okay. Cool. Okay. So if you still need to get there, get in there and get those done. Because the like 1 through 4 aren't too bad. It's the 5 through 8 that they get a little kind of burly. So those are due by the end of this week, and I might just throw, well, lesson 9 just on the end of that one, just by next Monday, just because we want to wrap this thing up. Well, I haven't done lesson 9 yet, so I don't know how big it is, but I do know that today's pretty short, and the next one is pretty. The next on whatever Wednesday is a burly one. It's a tough one. It's a big one. So especially because we haven't done anything with music yet. So anyway, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this tree right here, and we're gonna have this thing shrink as a function of the music system. So to do this, let's see. What they've done is they've actually added a script to this thing. So this script is let's add a component here. It's called rhythm. It's right there, but RHY. It's called rhythm actions. So this is the rhythm action script right here, and we can go in and look at it if you want, but it doesn't really show us too much. Although it is worth looking inside of it a little bit to see what's going on. But Um, Most of this is going to be kind of Greek, and that's fine. But there's a few things in here. We'll come back to it. I'll just leave this, close this out. We don't really need to see it, but what it's going to do is it's going to modify the x, the y, and the z at a scale. So it's going to shrink it down and grow it back. It's got some randomness in there, and it's also going to have the speed at which this does. So basically, you can kind of think of it almost like a compression, like an attack and a release. It's gonna grow and shrink based off of every time it gets a notification from Wwise. So that's all we really need to know about that. So this is the action, and inside this action that has a number of functions. And so those actually we should pull that up and take a look at that. So we've got some functions inside of here. If you recall what functions look like, so these are just our classes, and so public void start. So this is a function right here. So this is the one that happens at the beginning of the load, and then we have this other thing called void public void push actions. So push actions says do this. This is just the function. This is going to be important because we're going to need to use this one coming up. And there's another one, reset all. That one is IE numerator. Don't know what that one is. Oh, that's returning that. I don't know what this one is at all. But this is the one we care about right here. So this is the function that we're going to call from Wwise, essentially. So that basically it says push actions. And I don't know, I wouldn't have known that except for that it tells you that that's what we're going to be using. But obviously you can't see it from right here. So you have to kind of sometimes open the code to go inside and take a look at it. So we've got our now we've got this script on the tree. We need to control that. So what we're going to be doing is, because we don't need to attach this script that we're going to run to actually do the callbacks. It can be run on any object in this scene, anything that doesn't go away or come back. So if it's destroyed, that's a problem. So what we can do is we can just use this on any old one, and we're going to use it on the Wwise object itself. So we've got this Wwise. So it's essentially what we do is we create an empty game object, and we stuck all these as children inside of this one. But we can also just use this game object as, it's like acting like a folder right now, right? But we can also just use this as an actual game object that's going to work for us. So what we want to do is we want to actually add the component to this thing. And if you're working on something that's going to be like a character or something that's attached to the sound of like that, some interactivity, then you may want to attach it to, say, the player or an enemy or whatever, a fire or something like that. But for this one, because it's music, the music isn't triggered off of anything that's in 3D localization. Like it's not in 3D. It's just come through 2D. So we can trigger this off of anything in here that doesn't get created or destroyed. But to kind of keep things clean and concise, we'll use the Wwise object. So let's add our one right here. And what we want to do is we want to do a push, like an event action, right? So so let's see, what do I want to do? So AK event. So we can, so when these push actions happen, they can happen things like when something is started playing, or when something is done playing, or we can go on the beat, or we can go, like, basically we can get notifications back from Wwise in all sorts of different ways. So we're going to use the event script for this sort of thing. So we could say, on start, on end, on any of these things, that we could have this thing happen. But what we want to do is we're going to trigger this on during event, during start, and that's fine because we just want this thing to run because it's music. It's just as soon as the music starts, we run this trigger here. So what we want to do is this is the kicker right here. So we want to use callback. So when we have the callback, we have the game object, callback function, and callback flags. So this is what we want it to point to. So basically, it's saying, where do we want to push the, like, where do we want to, like, this is our kind of a connection to Wwise. And when it connects to Wwise and it comes back, it says, what do we want to tell, who's listening to Wwise? That's really what this is right here, this game object. And what we want to do is we're going to use the tree that we were just talking about right here. We want to use this tree as the system, or as what we're talking to. So let's drag the tree into there. And then the callback function. So now that we have the tree in here, this callback function is what's going to be inside, like, basically it has access to all the functions that are on this tree right now. And since we added this rhythm description act right here, it has a callback function that we can actually use, that we want to talk to. So, and that's that push, what is it called? Push action? What was it? I forgot it already. can look at my notes, but I might as well look at here. Push actions. So what we want to do is that's the function that we want to call from our Wwise system here. Push functions or push actions. And this one, it doesn't do it as a pull down menu. It's not smart like that. It doesn't. Whoops. It doesn't know what's in those. So you have to go look at it and find it. And then we're gonna say, okay, so what? This is the function we want. So this is the thing that we want to push to, or we want to like call back to. This is the function that we want to call, and then we're gonna say, when do we want to call this thing? So we can call this thing on a bunch of different stuff. So we can do on everything and end event. So when the event ends. So if you were using not music, for instance, but if you're using, say, some dialogue, and you want you want the game to respond because maybe the dialogue from a character is variable in length, and you want something to happen in here after that callback happens. So you could use end of event after the dialogue stops, then do its thing. But what we want to do is we can just do the music sync right here. So we can sync to the beat, to the bar, to the entry, to the exit, to the grid. And some of these other MIDI events, which I've not seen, so I don't know. But we'll just go to a bar. Keep it pretty simple. And then what we need to do is we need to say, okay, well, also just because we want to, what we want to choose for this music event is going to be which one was it? It's going to be the music, general. I think it's music charge. Is that the one we're supposed to be using?
You're in Magic.
What's up? Oh,
You're in
magic.
Magic.
Aha, thank you. Yeah, music. There we go. General. Music region. There we go. I was like, didn't seem right there. Cool. So what we should see, let's just play it and see if it works. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, so let's just let's change a couple of the properties of this thing just to see what happens on the tree. So let's bump up the randomness a little bit. Let's bump up the scale on these ones just to see if it changes it quite a bit. And let's increase on that. So it's easy to think that it might be triggering off of something like the bass, like or that sound on the one, but it's literally just going off the tick of the bar start right there. It works. Cool. Actually, what we should do is also, just to prove it to ourselves, let's go over here and connect to the game. And what we want to do is under our music region right here, we can actually adjust our playback speed. So let's do this. Tiny window. Ah. Kind of got funky there. It doesn't have enough time to go through its entire shrink before it has to like gets recalled there. It is interesting to note though that like unlike say something like when you're working with something like Ableton, right? So if I change the speed, it's not doing just a nice speed change like we're used to, say in other DAWs like say Ableton. It's actually just going to pitch that thing up. So you don't really want to be adjusting your. I mean that's just for an example. You wouldn't actually adjust your speed because like it's not like you're just by changing the tempo, it's going to adjust the pitch. It's going to go up by an octave. And so if you just bump it up a little bit, it's going to cause some problems unless you're using MIDI stuff. MIDI you can actually do that with. Cool. All right, so that's basically how we do it from a basic control, like from a component right there. It's oversimplifying this because it's actually what it's doing. Like basically, we're using this rhythm action script that was already built for us. So if you were using this in real life, you're probably gonna have to get some help either coding that thing up but that's okay. That's why you have coders on your team that can help kind of work you through this sort of thing. If you can get to the point where you can code this thing yourself, that's even cooler. That's really cool if you can pull that off. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about how we're going to do this with actual code. And the reason we're doing this with code, because right now, like, it would be, you could point this to multiple trees, and it gets like you have to like say if I want to affect a lot of things in the scene, it's going to get kind of complicated because I'm going to have to add a lot of different. I guess I could add a rigid body. I would have to add a lot of these event scripts for every single thing that I wanted to because I can only do this one training tree. I guess I can make. I don't know if I haven't tried it. Maybe let's just try this. I don't think it will work though. No. Basically, if I created a parent object of these and then attach the parent object into here, that will not because those children do not inherit the properties of the parent in this one. So they're just like essentially containers. So they don't inherit the properties. So you'd have to create for every single object in your screen. And this is easy with trees, but if you had something like a bunch of whatever 5,000 rats running around, that's going to be a real problem. So what we want to do is we want to create a more complex controller system, and especially as you get more and more callbacks in your scene, it gets you might want to, the idea is you create one script that controls all of your callback systems. So that's what we want to look at here. So let's dive into that and go 3.1, lesson 7. Use Wwise type events. Cool. So now that's exactly what we want to do. We want to control all of these trees in the scene doing the same thing, using the same method. For this one, I'm going to have to look at a lot of my notes here because this one I'm not very good with this thing. Okay. Let's see. So what we're going to do is, so when we went back to Wwise here, it got rid of it. It's because I opened up a new scene, so to speak, and I didn't save. There's no script on here. So what we want to do is we want to add a component right here. And we're going to call this one post music. Oops, I already created that script. I already have one in there. I want to get rid of that. So let's go back to the project, and we want to create this post music from scratch. Because that's the one we're going to be creating. There we go. So that's because I was running through this stuff on my own. So back to Wwise, let's add a component. Just the reason, because let's clear that out. Uh-oh. Crashed there for a little second. Uh-oh. Computer's being funny. Are you guys frozen? I'm hoping I'm not breaking. Okay. If I crash for whatever reason, just log back in. Let's see. So I'm going to create and add post music. Cool. Post music. Let's get in here. And what we want to do is, what we have to do here is the same thing, conceptually the same thing. We have to find an object that we want to point it to, and then we have to call the function, and then we have to, what was the third one? I had to, oh, yeah, what was the flag? Was the brain fart? I don't know. What was the third thing that we needed to add in there? Well, anyway, we'll get to it. We need to add the same conceptually the same stuff in this. So what we're going to do here is we need to first off create a Wwise type or a Wwise event. So public. Let's put that here. So this is what we're doing here is we're creating, like, this is the event that we want to, the Wwise event that we want to actually trigger off of. So ak.wwise. I don't know why they like. It seems weird that there's ak.wwise. It should be just ak.wwise. I don't know why there's an ak and then also a wwise. Like ak, Audio Connect doesn't have any other product, so I don't know why they're doing that. And then make this as an event. And we can call that event whatever we want to. We'll call it music event in this case. So if you recall, what that's going to do is just save this, go back over here. As soon as it cleans itself up, we should see that there it is. So this is the music event that I just created right here. So music event so now this is our connection to Wwise. So by creating, whoops, where did by creating this as a public AKWise event, this is a special type that basically the Wwise system knows how to create that. It's called music event. So that's all we need to do right there to get that thing created. So now what we need to do is to create this callback connection type stuff. So we need a callback flag and the function. So let's do this. Under our start, we want to have we want to go basically music event because we want to use this object, and we want to post. We've seen this one before too. And if we set game object, that means on this object that we're working on right now. Now, what we can also do is we can add a second input or a second property on this thing. So in the past, when we've done this post, that's all we did was just work on it right there. But what we want to do now is we can add a comma, and by adding the comma in there, it's going to allow us to add in the function. Let's see. Oh, sorry, the callback flag. Yes, the callback flag. Okay. So what we want to do is, and this is straight up. I have to like. This one is fuzzy to me. Like you'd have to look through some pretty heavy duty documentation to find this stuff because this is not intuitive. So it'd be AK callback type. So this is the same thing we did in the other one. We just did with the pull down menu. So we did AK callback type, and we want this to be AK. So we want to go to the beat, right? So it's called music sync. So these are all the things that we saw before. So these are all the callbacks. We could say at event end or at the event start or all those like MIDI events. And we want to go at the end of the bar. So if we did music, because we don't want to be connected to music, sync. And we can look through all these. These are all the things we can we can tick off of any of one of these things, and we want to use bar. So we AK music sync bar. And yeah, let's finish that out. Cool. So basically what that's going to do now is post this using this on this game object and using this flag. Sorry, dude, brain fart on that one. Okay. Let's see. So sorry, I have to look at my notes on these guys here. So there's a little. It's giving me an error right here, and this is a little bit weird. But basically, you have to give this one a little bit more information about this music sync bar. And I don't like. Again, I'm just kind of following off the directions on this one right here. But basically, you have to say. It's UINT, which means unsigned integer. So by saying unsigned integer, it's basically saying it's a number value that's coming back. So I guess it's returning a number value of you have to tell what type. But I'm not entirely sure why you have to do that. So anyway, UINT stands for unsigned integer. That's expecting that's specific to this. Now what we're missing one thing right here still is, so we have the flag, but we haven't set the function. So that's the function that was what we need to actually create and write. So we're going to do that down here. We'll write the function and then we'll add it back up in here. So basically it goes the object, the flag, and then the function. And so the function is going to be the third thing we're going to add in here, but we haven't written that yet. So let's write the function that we want to have send up to the other, that's going to send up and call the function to do the things. In this case, it's going to shrink the trees. So okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use this one, and instead of we're not using the update function, so we're going to call this let's see, we're going to call this one callback, void callback function. So this is the function, and let's get rid of this stuff here. So this is what we're going to call right here. Back. callback function. So this isn't right yet. We'll dial this one in and get this thing working a little bit cleaner here in a second. Actually, I don't need to call the function with the brackets there. So what we need to do here is create our callback function. So our callback function, this is going to call this one right here, and we need to actually fill this one out. So this is where it gets a little funky to me in terms of, well, there's a lot that's funky, but this one is basically what we would have to say is we want what function on what object. So before, what we did is we pointed it to a tree that had that rhythm action script attached to it, and inside that rhythm action script had the push actions. So we could call that we could call that from here. But what's a little bit weirder with this one is right now what we want to do is we want to send this to multiple different trees. So what they did for us is they actually created a controller for all the trees. And we've seen this thing with the game manager. Basically, actually, let's go look at it instead of talking about it. So they write this thing, these thing called managers right here. And so they wrote a game manager that basically controls a lot of different stuff in the game. Things like the time of day, and so this is a lot of the Wwise stuff. So they basically evil crawler RTPCs. They created all these things, and these are what are going to be controlling a lot of the other objects in the scene. So what we can do is basically we're going to use this system as our remote control for all these other things in here. So basically we only need to call it one time to the game manager, and the game manager is going to propagate all of those properties out to the trees here. So we just need to call, we just need to call the game manager for this one. And this is just straight up from the code, because I don't really I would not have known how to do this one right here. So the callback function, it needs some input values. This is just I would never ever know this one, object. And so this is me just straight up copying in underscore cookie, which I don't know what that means. AK callback types, or callback type. What is it? In underscore type. And object in info. Oops. So that one would be, that one is, let me see, void callback function. Oops, because I have two of these here. There we go. And then what we want to do is we want to basically, this is the function that we want to add to. So we want to go game manager. That's that one that we were just looking at. And we want to point to say push rhythm actions. So it's going to propagate that to all of its children. Cool. And let's close this down, make sure we're looking good. Let's go back to our Wwise event. So we still have to set the event that it's going to be syncing to. So we set all this stuff up, but it's still not connected to Wwise in a way. So by clicking on here, we're going to go back and do the same thing with music, general, music region. Okay. Cool. And let's try it out. Uh-oh. I broke it. So, let's see. So let's take a look at my script again. Let me just double check. Let me triple check on this one that my code looks good here. Music event. On the start, it's music event. Callback function. Feels right to me. I wasn't getting any errors. So let's see. Callback type. So sorry, this one is like it's hard for me to troubleshoot because I don't I am unable to understand. Like this is still confusing to me. I don't understand this bit right here. This in cookie business. I don't know what that is. Does anybody know? I'm curious. Like, does anybody else have any idea how that works? Hmm. So let's talk about game magic, push rhythm action. So if we get in so what we're trying to get to is the game manager here. Let's double check. Manager. And we want to talk in this one right here. There should be that rhythm action in here. Oh, yeah, I didn't actually. I don't think I had signed it to the trees. That's what I think I'm missing right now. But there should be. Let's see if we can find it in here, just to double check to make sure that that actually exists. That rhythm action in there. Oops. So let me. Um, I think I need to add the rhythm actions on these trees. That's what I'm missing right now. Actions. Actually, what I can do, which is kind of neat, I'm going to do that. If I select all of these, I can add it to them all at once. So with all of those now, they were all listen to that. So let's double check that. That's what I forgot to add. Because those trees weren't listening to the rhythm action script. There we go. So maybe not the sexiest thing ever, but I mean, it's still what we're seeing there is that it's actually connecting between the two of those. And so I'm trying to think of other cases where this would be used, and I just don't have enough experience to know how those like where else this would be useful. But obviously, if you're doing some sort of like music based game or something that's really integrated with music, um, you think about something like whatever, like Beat Saber or something like that, where it's going to be like super synced between the two of them, where you're actually like music is part of the game.
Have you
Um,
played Beat Saber, Merkel?
a lot of Beat Saber.
Oh, I'm
So
so jealous. I want to play so bad. It's like right up my alley.
it is like I am. Those are not my kind of games typically,
Me
but
neither, but that one looks so fun.
it's really fun at parties to have that like as a social game. It's pretty fun, and especially like for people who've never done VR before. It's actually pretty fun. I'm not like I don't kick ass like the super pros. It's like Guitar Hero or whatever. Like people that kick ass here that are really good at it. But I don't know. Like actually, what is? I'm wondering if that was done with Wise or
I
if they
had
wrote their own
one
system.
VR experience, and it was like a while back ago, and it was like a roller coaster simulator. And I almost near fell out of the chair that I was sitting in and got super dizzy and like did not want to go back in at all. And that was like the only experience that I have with it. So I'm like hesitant now, but
No,
I feel like that I really want to try that though.
the one that gets most people that we turn most people on with is the what is the Google one? The 3D painting one. Um, what is that called? It's so cool. It's basically 3D painting, and when you're watching it on screen, when you're watching people do it on screen, you're like, that's so boring. But when you're actually painting it in 3D, it is the most like surreal experience, and it's neat because one of the things I like
Is it
about yeah,
tilt brush?
Tilt Brush, yeah.
Okay.
So it's amazing. Like if you've not played with Tilt Brush, I wish we could all get together and play with this because it is jaw-droppingly cool. And like that was the first time I put because I was kind of the same way. I had not really played with VR, and then I was like, yeah, okay, VR seems kind of hooky, and then I put that on. And I was like, oh shit, this is legit, and
There's so many things I want to try with the VR headsets, but like I don't want to buy into like $1,000 setup and then have something new come out for cheaper in like 2 years,
it does.
and then
But
like
I will have to say it's pretty much worth it. Like I got
Yeah.
lucky. I have 4 units actually.
Oh,
So
geez.
I got HTC sent me a bunch because I did an art party. So I hit up HTC and I was like, "Hey, we're doing an art party. Can you loan me some?" And they sent them, and they never took them back.
Oh,
So they
wow.
wouldn't. They actually wouldn't like let me send them back. So
Oh, geez.
I've got a bunch of those. They're like I've got one of my well, actually one of my studio or one of my office at school, one in KC 146, one here, and one of them's kind of broken. So um, so but it's but we play this Alice in Wonderland game where you switch between first person, third person, and it is mind bending. It is the coolest game ever. So and it's these puzzles, you run around in the spiral, and you're kind of like a god, where you control this thing from afar, and then you zoom in and you become Alice for a while, and then you zoom back. It's
So
wild.
cool. So wait,
So
you have the Vive,
yeah, just the hot top end original Vive.
the
So
Cosmo Elite, I'm
no, it's
assuming.
older ones than that. They don't
Okay.
show it on there anymore. But it has headphones and stuff like that on it. We did it like with Burning Man this year because Burning Man wasn't happening, so we did a virtual Burning Man, and you could actually fly
Right.
around, deploy it, and talk to people, and it's crazy. It's alt space is what we were doing.
Yeah, we there was a thing that I was a part of. Like I didn't have anything to do with like any of the back end of it. I just had one of the artists that I work with play music there. But Lost in Sound here in Denver did like a VR art exhibit for their friend. Chris Bull was like releasing a bunch of artwork, so but nobody could show up. So they did an entire like they mapped out what would be like their house and like what the art exhibit would be, and you could actually see other people in VR walking around like kind of like VR chat and like
That's
going up. You could walk up to the paintings and seeing them in high res, and
yeah.
like it's so
I'm sure
cool.
that was done in alt space because that's like that's how they did Burning Man too. And same deal, you can walk around and talk to people, and you can go look at the art and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was super cool because like they had the people performing music in VR too. Like you could look over and see them there almost,
Yeah,
and
I saw
it
some
was
of them.
pretty neat.
They're doing the XR stuff. So you actually some of the ones that you'd go to these dance parties and you see the DJs and you see the real DJ there,
Yeah,
the live person. We're all like caricatures, but the DJs were real, and
right.
it's because they would do this like it was yeah
I
it's
wasn't
fun.
able to experience it in VR, but I was able to watch people on Twitch that were streaming it
Yeah,
from like their setup, and I was able to like see from their point of view, which was just as cool,
yeah.
honestly.
It's VR like VR is I was a skeptic, but it is badass. I think things like AR, XR, and all that kind of stuff is it's crazy cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, and the thing is like this stuff actually like bodes well really well. It just works. Like I mean, Wise just works with it, so it's wild and cool because it got the head tracking. It's neat. So and the systems are getting better and better and better and lighter and faster and higher res and wider image. It's I like I was I agree with you. I'm hesitant. Same thing with like buying a 3D printer. You don't want to buy a 3D printer now because every year the next generation is like 10 times cooler for the same price. So so I've not dove into that one right there. But that's why we like unfortunately we're not on campus this semester or next. But that's when we've got some at our disposal. So cool. But you have to have pretty beefy at least a 1080. Well, 1080 is kind of the bare minimum for doing VR stuff, and then but that's these days a lot of people have better than that. You can't run VR on Mac very well at all, which
It's just
sucks.
hard to drop 1200,
Whoa, is
man.
that what it's
Like,
costing right now?
for the Vive Pro, it's 1199.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Pretty expensive.
I mean, I feel like the ones like mine were like 600 a piece or something like that. So they were like a lot less expensive. They're not as cool, but I don't know. I still
You
think
can
they're
get
cool.
the virtual reality headset only for 800, and then you still have to get the Joy Cons and stuff.
And the Oculus is just as good. So you could also go look over the Oculus stuff too. I think both Oculus and Vive are both badass. So, yeah, so that's I mean that's really all there was for this section. So it took me a while to get through. I went through it twice just to kind of get a feel for it, but I was able to pass the exam with 100%. The quiz for this one was only 5 questions, and it's you can pass it pretty much the first time, well, or second time. The cool thing is like it's only got 5 questions, and it's this one will blast through that. Some of the other ones, I think it was the last one or the one before that had like 11 or 12 or questions or something like that, or it was a lot. Maybe it was even like 19 questions or something like that. It was like it was burly. It took me a few times to get through that to get that one right, but you can get some stuff wrong and still get through the whole thing. So um so yeah, that's I mean that's in terms of like hardcore content. That's all we really had for today. So, I guess we could call it a little bit early today. And then what I would like you to do is if you're all caught up, is get into and do this go in and do this, follow along with the quiz and hammer out this one. If you're not, if you need to get caught up. But yeah, this is number 8, or this is number 7. And then if you want to start working on number 8, 8 is a burly one. It's big. And it's also all the music stuff that we've not talked about before. It's assuming you've done Wise 201, which we haven't done yet. So, but this will give you a little bit of a head start for next semester if you want to do it. Just out of curiosity, is it like, how many people so okay, let me do the pitch and then I'll ask again. So we're gonna be doing Game Audio 2 next semester, and it's going to be a lot more. We're going to talk about music, and it's going to be much more project based. So it's going to be an extension of what we're doing this semester. It's not going to be a lot of new material. What we want to do is put all the material that we've learned to work. And so we're going to work on actual like other student projects or client projects or your own projects. So it's not going to be like this fire hose of information. It's going to be trying to actually apply the stuff. So I will say it's still going to be challenging for sure, but it's going to basically, you're going to come out of that with like more games, a lot of games that you actually produce. This one is going to be, at the end of this semester, you have one kind of final project, but at that one we're going to have like 2 or 3 capital projects throughout the semester. If that were the case, how many people would be interested in taking this next semester? 1, 2. Willem, you're out.
Would it be like a bunch of different types of games, or how would that work?
Yeah, still building it out. It's the first time the class has ever been run, so we can I don't want to make it up as we go along because I need to have structure, but we can certainly we can flex. Like if you have certain interests, we can accommodate that kind of thing. So basically, what my goal, the outcome of the class is, I want you guys to have killer portfolios so that you could actually get work doing this stuff. And so it's going to be a lot of industry connection stuff, that sort of thing. So we can mold it around kind of what you want it to do. It's not me telling you what to do. It's kind of what you want to get out of this. So, okay.
Yeah, at this point, I'm pretty interested in something like that.
Okay, cool. I just need to make sure that we have enough people to make the class so that it actually runs, so that it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean,
cancel.
I'd be super interested. I like, my next semester is my last semester, so I'm only taking like a few classes, I think. So if that's the case, and if it's less classes than I think it might be, then I would consider adding on another elective out of sheer fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would probably be the one that I go for.
So for you seniors, you'll be taking seminar next semester, and you can't necessarily double dip because you can't use the same project for both classes, but you can modify it far enough that you could actually get like so in seminar, and Cecilia's running it, so she runs it a little bit differently than the way when I run it, but basically it's creating, it's the idea behind seminar is that you're creating portfolio pieces. It's getting you ready for graduation. And so what are you going to do after graduation? So the idea is to create some cool portfolio sites, create a website for yourself, do all that kind of self-promotion, branding, that sort of thing. A little bit entrepreneurship stuff in there, but you're going to be creating some portfolio projects to show off what you can do. And so you can spend that time, of course, if you're not in, of course, outside of this class, like you can do stuff like you can't just go record bands. I mean, you can sort of, but you want to do something that sets you apart from, say, other people in your field. So, and this is one of those things that will really set you apart. So you can really use some of this material towards your portfolio in that class. So like you said, from an academic honesty standpoint, there's some weird policies. You can't just use the same project for multiple classes, but if you modify it far enough, you could. So this is basically an add-on. Like this also feeds into your portfolio. So in other words, like Austin, what you're saying, if you're taking this, like this wouldn't be a huge time suck because you would have to be doing something like this for your portfolio in that class anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I already took seminar. This is quite literally my last audio class. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much done with audio in general. It's just this elective right now.
Okay.
And then and then like my next semester is like super lightweight. Like there's really not much going on, so I would be considering taking another elective just to, take up some time. We're not going to campus, so I got a lot of time on my hands. So
yeah. I've been working up at CU Boulder. They're trying to go back full bore next semester.
I'm sure they are.
Crazy. Like, you're gonna get shut down. It's like it's only gonna last 2 weeks, like it did last time. That's them. So, okay, cool. I just wanted to kind of get a bead where people were at with that sort of stuff. So, But yeah, like if you have ideas, specific ideas, I'm gonna start building out that class. And if you've got something that you like want to hit on, maybe we should do like we'll see if we can do a VR section in there too. I think that'd be actually pretty cool. So,
Cool.
and some AR stuff. So cool. All right, my friends. Well, it's like 10:30 almost right now. So why don't we call it a little bit early today and get on it? You've got some time now to crank on some of this project and stay warm. So hit me up if you have any questions. We
Hey,
yeah.
can I